This happened a couple years ago to me and my two other friends, 21 and 17 at the time, both female. It was summer and we had plans to go to our friend's house. There's this park that's halfway from mine and hers, so my friends and I decided it could be nice to sit in this hut in the park and have a smoke on the way to our friends. This was in the evening, so it was getting dark already, dark enough for the streetlights to turn on. And it's important for the story to explain a bit how the hut was situated in the park. The park itself is shaped like a big circle around a lake, so the hut we sat at had two entrances from the left and right. These entrances then connected to the main park path. The hut is open and just has benches in a circle and a roof, but no open air around it, if that makes any sense. And anyways, the streetlights on the right side were not working, so it was extremely dark on this side. My friends and I are chatting away and people are walking past like normal. Nothing strange, really. And then this man comes from the left and is walking really slow. Now, normally this wouldn't catch my attention, but this was summer, and he had on a long, thick trench coat with a top hat that had a feather and sunglasses. He walked super slowly into the dark and just stood there in the dark, and I could make out his silhouette just standing there. And at this point, all of my friends are quiet as well, and we are feeling uneasy as we're all girls. And then the man walks back into the streetlights that were lit. He stands there for a couple of seconds again and continued staring at us. And then he proceeded to walk slowly down the path to the hut, still staring at us. We thought maybe he was just walking through and he had decided to scare us, but no such luck. He then sits down in front of us and begins to talk. For context, we live in Brussels, so we started speaking French and said, "What a lovely evening, ladies." We speak and understand French, but in that moment we knew it was smarter to pretend we don't, so we just say, "Sorry, English only." And you can see him get agitated and mad. He starts going on this whole rant about how we should speak the language of the country, and stupid English people think they're better than everyone. And as I said, he was quite mad while saying all this. And I began saying to my friends we should probably leave now. Our friend is expecting us at our house soon. And since my other friends were scared as well, the minute I said that, they agreed and we started to walk the path to the main park. And they were so distracted they left their bags sitting on the bench. And I called them back to tell them they left their possessions behind. And while we were gathering our things, the man is just staring at us, still sitting there. We got our things and started walking again when suddenly we hear him say, Hey, come back here." We turn around to see him holding up the can of Coke that my friend left, and he said we shouldn't litter. He told us to come back and throw it away. We began to run at this moment and didn't look back. The whole way to my friend's house, we were so creeped out and scared that we thought he would follow us or something. And every person that ended up walking behind us made us nervous. What scared us the most was he just had his hands in his pockets the entire time. And then the moment he held up the can of Coke, there was something else in his hand that shined with the streetlight. None of us could make it out, but we assumed with the shape of the object, and the way it shined from the light, and the way he was calling us to come back to him, we think he had a knife. We have never seen this man since, and all of us refused to go around that area at night. It really scared us. I know the story might not be as creepy as an encounter as some of the other posts on here, but this has stuck with me and my friends for a while. We're not sure what the Hat Man would have done if we had stayed longer or had come back to throw the Coke can away, but I'm glad we didn't find out. This happened to me around 2021, and sometimes I still find it hard to grasp. For context, I now live in a different place amongst most of my relatives, so I feel safer saying this on here. And the reason I'm posting this is for people to learn and possibly caution them from my experience. And I'd say the place I lived in was just pretty old. And it wasn't densely populated, nor was it empty. It had wooded areas around it, and you could cycle to the mall, school, and other normal places, but you'd have to take a car to go to places like the hospital and so on and so forth. Typical small town. And I was basically in my last year of high school. Being an only child, and a girl on top of that, made my parents overprotective. I was naturally more cautious than the rest of my friend group. I didn't really mind being that way though, because I always thought it was the better option. So, teenagers from school would have these outdoor get-togethers in the woods a few kilometers away from the school. And it was just common for people to hang out and chill until 3 o'clock in the morning or something. Including me, and it was a group of 4. They decided since it was our last year of high school, we should probably drink together in the woods. Now obviously looking back, it was a stupid idea. But it wasn't unsafe, and it wasn't deep in the woods either. And there's a pretty clear trail in a small, open-ish area. We planned on doing it on a Thursday, because my parents would be out, and the rest of my friends would convince their parents that we would be having a sleepover. We bought the alcohol and some other stuff to just hang out and have a good time. We walked on the trail for about 1 minute when I felt uneasy. And I felt like we were being watched or something like that, and looked over to one of my friends. She looked a little distressed, but we just shrugged it off. We walked on a few minutes more and found our spot. And we started drinking and spent the next few hours gossiping and having those deep talks while being drunk. And I didn't drink too much, and neither did my other friend. And we were just a little tipsy, I think would be a better way to explain it. We had long forgotten about the brief, weird feeling that we had felt walking until we heard something from the thick trees in front of us. Even though we were loud, we all heard it. And there was this weird snicker or giggle. And I got it from this log I was sitting on, and just dragged my friends back a little bit. We had a fire going and 2 torches, but we still couldn't see anything outside of the ring of light cast by the fire. It wasn't that close to us, maybe about 20 feet or so, but the fact that we had heard that laugh was just insane to me. We were supposed to be the only ones out here. And I pointed the flashlight straight into the area, and couldn't see anything. And I sat back down, and when I turned the flashlight off, there was a silhouette coming out of the woods. I switched on the flashlight to blind the person, while my other friends did the same. We started yelling and getting ready to run, when I saw the most horrifying sight of my life. And it was this man we'd never seen before. He had this plastered-on smile, and his hair was covered in dirt. He was pale, and his eyes were almost like he wasn't looking at us, but just in our general direction. Now I can't explain, but just textbook creepy. We all ran for it. My very drunk friends even managed to snap out of it. We got to my house, and as I lived the closest, we were terrified of what our parents would do to us for drinking in the woods, but it really didn't matter. We called the cops, and they found nothing. Word got out, and people pretty much stayed away from the pass at nighttime, and a couple of the guys in our school managed to get their dads to go with guns and find the guy, but nothing ever came of it. Fast forward like 1 month later, we didn't talk about it much, and never did anything like that again. And I got a pocket knife and pepper spray to use for self-protection. And I went home after school, and I was exhausted, so I decided to take a nap. My dad was at work, and my mom was visiting her sister. And that's when I suddenly woke up to this weird sound. We had a 1-story house, and the walls were not too thick. I locked all the doors and even the windows out of habit. And still, fearing for the worst, I locked myself in my room and looked out my window. I didn't see anything. And I grabbed a bat and my phone, heading out of the room, and I looked at the doors and everything was locked. And I heard this weird shuffling sound coming from outside. I took a peek through the window in my living room, and I kid you not, it was the same dude from the woods. He was just outside walking in this erratic, eerie way that sent goosebumps down my spine. He somehow saw me and started saying, "Hey there," very loudly. And I called the police, and after that, I told him to go away. And he started saying my name. Had he been listening to us? And the police questioned him when they got there. He has no history of mental illness, and he had no clinical disorder, and after enough questioning, he confessed to liking young women. He's in jail now. He'll probably be out in a few years, though. So this happened to my mom maybe 3 years ago. My mom has passed away now, but she was around 40 at the time. She was a very pretty woman and looked young for her age. She often had total strangers hitting on her, and pretty much everybody was obsessed with her. That being said, she was no stranger to dealing with creeps. And so one day, she was at Woodman's, which is a grocery store for those of you who may not know. And it wasn't really in a bad area, but it was close to a bad area, and it was right off the freeway, so it could be kind of sketchy. She always told me she didn't want me going in there alone, and especially at night. When I would go with her at night, and I was not leaving her side, even though I was around 18, 20 at the time. And so anyways, she was there during the day, doing her shopping alone. She noticed a man in the same aisle as her. He was looking at her, and when she would turn to look at him, he would look away and act like he was looking at something on the shelves. And honestly, she didn't think too much of it. And as I mentioned, she's dealt with her fair share of creeps. And so she grabbed what she needed and moved on to the next aisle. And that is when she noticed him again, in the same aisle as her, doing the same thing. And this time, it kind of rubbed her the wrong way. But she went about her business and moved on again. The man kept following her throughout the store. Now it's worth mentioning that my mom was not one to be messed with. She was very confrontational, never backed away from a fight. She's even beaten the crap out of men, taken beatings from men, and usually carried a weapon. So as she's getting ready to check out, he's still following her. Now she's pretty pissed off and didn't feel safe leaving. She alerted the clerk, who went to get a manager. My mom took this opportunity to tell him off, saying something like, "Can I help you? What do you want?" And he replied to her saying, "You look like the kind of girl who would look really good in someone's basement." And at this point, she was not only mad, but absolutely terrified. The manager came, and while my mom was telling them about the guy and what he had said, he ran off. And the police were called, and they were able to locate him in or around the building. And they escorted him off the property, but that was all they did. My mom was scared of the guy lurking somewhere, waiting to watch her get into her car, then proceeded to follow her. And she ended up calling me in tears, saying she was afraid if she was going to be followed or abducted or something. She wanted someone to know. So she and I stayed on the phone till she was home. It took a lot to shake or scare my mom. But she has really good intuition, so for her to be as shaken as she was, he has to be as creepy as they come. His comment to her only proved that further. And in the end, she was okay, but I can't imagine what would have happened if she didn't tell someone, or if he did decide to follow her.